السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم من همزه ونفخه ونفثه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى لا سيما المصطفى صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Dear brothers and sisters everywhere, welcome to a new edition of Ask Huda. You ask your valuable questions and we'll try our utmost to bring you the right answer, inshallah. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome today Sheikh Yusuf Estes as my companion during the show. Thank you so much for joining me. Barakallah fikum. And as you all know, that there are many of da'wah questions which Sheikh Yusuf will be the expert to answer them. So inshallah we're having the pleasure of having him on the show tonight. We have a couple of things. In the beginning, I'd like to remind you with our phone numbers. Area code 002023855, 248 or 249, and the email address is ask@huda.tv. We're doing our utmost to answer the tons and the loads of your email questions. So bear with us and pray. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for us to answer as many questions as possible, inshaAllah azza jal. In addition to some pending questions from the previous episode, inshallah we'll tackle them in the beginning. Sheikh Yusuf, I guess this question which came last episode from Sister Shifat from Oman will be directed to you directly. How can you convince somebody about the existence of God? Can you imagine there are, until now, there are some people who have a problem with the fact that there is a God, or God does exist, there is a creator. So how and what is the best way to bring to the attention that there is not only that there is God, but this God has to be one and unique, etc. The concept of Tawheed in Islam.
Well, Jazakallah khair. Actually, I like the way you put the question, because you can't force anybody to be a Muslim, and you can't force people to believe something if they don't want to believe it. And the way you said, how can you present it? And that's our only job, is to present it. And what we should do in this case, if somebody's serious about this, they want to talk about it, is to just begin with something very simple. The things that we see in front of us every day, we have no problem accepting. Even though some of the things, we don't know how they came about, but we accept it. When we see an automobile go down the street, we say that's a Toyota. You and I was talking about cars today. There's a Toyota, there's a Volvo, look over here, there's a Chevrolet. But we've never been in the places where they make those things. We've never seen anybody make the cars. But we still know that they were made, and they were made by those people in those places. So as we can understand that, how about when we look to the universe and we see the patterns that are established very well throughout the entire universe, everything from the macro to the micro. When we look at the big picture, the planets, the stars, and so on, and everything in these uniform patterns, revolving, moving, and all sphere-shaped. Then when you look in the microscope at the molecules and so on, you find the same thing again. You see organization, you see things that are there that are impossible to have accidentally come about. As to what or who created all of that, that's another matter. But to prove there is exactly what's called intelligent design, this is something that scientists today, many have come around to say, well, at least I'll say there was something at some time that must have started it, because there's too much intelligence involved.
Well, some people still argue, particularly those who claim to be scientists, because I believe if they are true scientists, they would definitely resort to the fact that there's got to be a manufacturer and a creator behind this magnificent creation, as you just described. They claim all of that happened as
an accident.
Whether the Big Bang or the Mother Nature created that.
That concept flies in the face of someone who's a true scientist, because the scientist is supposed to clear the board when they begin and start with no information, and then with no prejudice, no preconceived notion or concept, you sit down and you begin to add the evidences to prove or disprove whatever theory you might have. And when you start out saying, well, I already don't want to believe in God, well, okay, then why are you even going to talk about it? Because this is no longer a scientific exploration. It's nothing more than a personal vendetta.
Well, you know this Huxley scientist who said that perhaps if we bring a bunch of monkeys and they sit for millions of years banging on the typewriters, there is a possibility that they can come up with something similar
like
to Shakespeare.
Yeah,
right?
I heard about that.
And luckily, another scientist from New York, he replied to that scientist by saying that the probabilities of picking up the coins, if you number the coins from 1 to 10, you have coins and you number them from 1 to 10, you throw them in your pocket and you try to take them one after another in the same order, in an ascending order. He said the probability of picking number 1 the first time is 1 out of 10, and so on. But to pick them in the same order from 1 to 10 is 1 in 10 billion times.
That's true.
So after all, there are still some people who may imagine that this universe and our livelihood and maintaining our life and the life of everything that exists, sun rising every morning from the east, and the air, the oxygen that we breathe, and the provision that we eat, everything happened as an accident.
But Sheikh, look to the way the Quran starts out. In the very beginning in Surah Baqarah, you know it better than me, is that after Allah talks about the believers, He tells us who the disbelievers are, and He even tells us whether you warn them or warn them not. So don't be upset, sister, if the folks don't agree with you about the existence of God. Don't be frustrated. Don't get worried about it. Just realize that this is the way that some people choose to believe or disbelieve. You show them what you can, and use our website. I have one called godallah.com. It has a lot of evidence there.
Beautiful. Barakallah feek. We have the second pending question from Abdullah from United Arab Emirates. He's supporting some poor children to go to school, and he was wondering whether the financial support to these kids will be considered zakah or not. Well, if you have an intention to pay this money to those who are eligible for the zakah with the intention of paying zakah, then definitely it counts as zakah. Education is a very, very important thing in Islam, and I would like to remind you that the very first vocabulary, the first word that Allah the Almighty revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was read in the name of your Lord. So education is very, very important, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the superiority of a scholar over a worshipper is similar to the superiority of the sun over the rest of the stars, or the superiority of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam over the rest of the prophets. So sending poor children to school to get a degree, to get educated, we definitely can support them out of our zakah fund, and we should. Not only that is it permissible. The second, similarly, as they grow up and they don't have the means to get married, so we can support them from our zakah fund in order to help them to get married as well, and suffice their basic needs. So buying them a flat, furnishing the flat, buying them their needs in order to get married as well, as long as they are. Some people misunderstand the concept of the zakah, and they think that the zakah should be given only to those who are starving to death. No, that's not true. There are 8 categories whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala listed to be eligible for the zakah. إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ وَالْمَسَاكِينَ, verse number 60 of Surah At-Tawbah. So he mentioned 2 categories with regards to poverty. The common factor between all of them is poverty, but some of them are not necessarily poor. Sending people for the sake of Allah to, whether for jihad on the battlefield, Muslims army, those who are guarding the borders, border control, and to seek knowledge to benefit the ummah. We can support the dua who go abroad to non-Muslim countries in order to spread the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be also supported from what's known as Baytul Mal, which we collect in it the zakah fund. So the answer to your question is yes, definitely you can consider this financial support out of your zakah as zakah. Barakallah feek. But it has to be preceded by an intention, which means, have you paid this money in the past as a gift or as a voluntary charity? You cannot go back and say, well, I'm going to deduct it from the zakah because the Sheikh said it counts as zakah. Because before the fard or before the act of worship, you have to precede it with an intention. That's why we say, if you give somebody a loan, and he failed to pay back, so you say, fine, I'll drop it. Drop it from what? drop it from your voluntary charity, not from the zakah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Khurshid from United Arab Emirates, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Ask Huda.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sheikh Salam, my question is, if in the mosque, in the Maghrib prayers, Imam, after Alham Sharif, Imam reads Laylaf, right sir? Hello?
Yeah, I hear you, Khurshid.
Yeah, and in the second rakah also, after Alham Sharif, he reads the same Laylaf Quraysh.
No.
So is this sunnah? Just I want to know.
Okay, barakallahu feek. Jazakallahu khair. Okay. Brother Abu Amana from United Arab Emirates, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Ask Huda.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, Sheikh Salah, and our special guest, Yusuf Estes. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
And I have three questions about zakah. First thing is, say, whether jewelry, whether it is used or not, but it has attained nisab, should it be paid zakat?
Okay.
Second question is, say, for 4 years my wife has jewelries and it was above the nisab level, and should it be paid for each year 2.5%, that is 10%?
Okay.
And the third question is, can she give to her mother, my mother-in-law? Maybe she might be having some financial obligations. So these are my questions.
Okay. Barakallahu feek. Jazakallahu khairan, Abu Amana. Basically, the two questions are just one question. Inshallah, we'll answer them in the same order they were received. Assalamu alaikum. Brother Rami from Egypt, welcome to Ask Huda.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. Thank you for asking, Rami.
I just had a question about, well, I just recently started praying maybe a bit more than a year ago, and I'm 19 now, so I was just wondering, because I've already missed a lot of prayers before, so I was wondering if it's compulsory on me to not only pray my 5 a day, but also try to pray the prayers that I've missed before, to try to make up for all the prayers that I've missed.
Okay.
Because I was finding it kind of like demotivating for me, because like I'm trying to pray as much as possible and trying to pray Qiyam al-Layl and stuff like that, but I also feel like I need to pray those prayers that I've missed as well. So it's kind of like making a load on me. So like that's why I was kind of feeling like I don't know, I wasn't sure if I had to pray them or not.
How long you were in praying?
I've been praying all of my prayers for about a year and a half now.
But before that you were not praying at all?
No, I wasn't, no.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. I'm glad to hear that, alhamdulillah, Allah has guided you and you started praying. May Allah keep you steadfast on His straight path.
Ameen.
Ameen. Khurshid from United Arab Emirates reciting the same surah in the first and the second rak'ah is valid. But is it the sunnah? No, I cannot say it is the sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ used to recite different surahs. As we have several narrations. For instance, the Prophet ﷺ used to recite in the Nafl prayer, in the first rak'ah for Maghrib or Fajr, Surah Al-Kafirun, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ, and in the second Surah Al-Ikhlas, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. And on Jumu'ah and Eid, Surah Al-A'la, then Surah Al-Ghashiyah, and so on. But if somebody recited the same surah, if this is the only surah he knows, or if he recited accidentally, that is fine. The salah is accepted, because reciting the surah after Al-Fatiha is mere sunnah. Barakallahu fikum. And it should not really be a point of conflict between you and the imam or the person who just led the prayer. Assalamu alaikum. Brother Irfan from the KSA. Irfan. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Islam Sheikh. And my son to Yusuf Estes also.
I cannot hear you clearly. I'm sorry, Irfan. Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikh, I'm having one salam. I'm having two questions, Sheikh.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, the first question is regarding Umrah. While we complete our Umrah, what is the take on regarding taping of the hairs? Should we shave all the hairs, or can we just cut a little amount of hairs? Because usually
next question, Arfan. I got your first question.
Just cutting the hairs.
Okay, what's your next question, Arfan, please?
Yeah, our next question is regarding Witr Namaz, because I am from India. I just came to Saudi. So I came to know regarding the Witr Namaz, we should read continuously three rakat namaz. We shouldn't sit like we do in Maghrib prayer.
I got your question. Thank you, Arfan. Brother Suleiman from Nigeria. Brothers and sisters, I want you to seize this opportunity and shower my guest with questions pertaining da'wah, pertaining,
I prefer to be showered with dua.
Inshallah. when they shower you with questions and you answer them, they will shower you with dua.
Oh, okay. That's how it works?
Assalamu alaikum, Suleiman.
Wa alaikum salam, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Please try again, Suleiman. Okay, Muhammad from Nigeria, his question is really sad to present. How can we deal with the Khawarij in his country? I don't have to say in what country, but I guess I already said it. So here is the point. First, many people do not know what Khawarij is. Khawarij is plural of Khariji, the person who exceeds the limit or exits or goes beyond the boundaries. And the Prophet ﷺ predicted such sect. And it's really amazing how he described them. He described them as, when it comes to worship, they're very active in worship, more than anybody else. He said that one of you will belittle his prayers compared to their prayers, will belittle his worship if he compares his worship to any of them. But guess what? يخرجون من الإسلام كما يخرج السهم من الرمية. They exit out of Islam as fast as an arrow leaves its bow. It's like that. Subhanallah. So they contradict the concept of belief in Islam, and I would just like to share with you some of their belief. For instance, number one, and how this developed, it developed at the time of the trial and the fitna between the two great Imams, Ali radiallahu anh and Muawiyah. And Al-Khawarij actually repelled against Ali in the beginning. So after they used to fight along with him, they considered him a kafir, then they considered Ali as a Muawiyah as a kafir, and so on. So Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu appointed and delegated to them Abdullah ibn Abbas, the Prophet's cousin. He was very intelligent, Tarjuman al-Quran. He went to their neighborhood and he discussed with them, and subhanallah, he defeated them. He utterly defeated them by answering 3 questions and 3 objections. And he took more than half of them, almost 2,000 or more. They came back to their senses and enter into the folds of Islam again. So dialogue is very, very important if you're asking how to deal with them. But sometimes these guys, I don't know whether they are Khawarij or not. I'm going to present some bullet points and major signs with which you'll be able to recognize whether these guys are Khawarij or not. For instance, number one, they consider the person, a Muslim who indulges into a major sin, they consider him a kafir. And they say he shall reside eternally in the fire of hell. Number two, they deny the concept of shafa'ah, which as the mainstream of the Ummah, we believe that the shafa'ah was given as an honor to the Prophet ﷺ, and he will be the first shafi'ah on the Day of Judgment. And that will take them to deny most of the Sunnah, of course. They consider Ali and Uthman and many other companions as disbelievers. When it comes to the concept of the hereafter, they deny that there will be something called Sirat on the back of Jahannam, and they deny this concept completely, as-Sirat, which will be over Jahannam. Also, they have a problem with many of the traits and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they deny them entirely, despite the fact that they have been stated and affirmed to Allah by Allah in the Quran. So when you look at that, you find it easy for them to judge others as kuffar. And they would believe that the only believers are they themselves. That's why they will not hang around with the Muslim Ummah. They will not pray in their masajid. they consider themselves as the absolute Muslims and everybody else is a kafir. So they would only pray with their leaders and so on. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Farheen from United Arab Emirates. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sheikh. I have one question.
Please.
Can we write Ayatul Kursi or any other verse of the Quran on a plate with Zamzam and saffron and then drink it for seeking shifa?
Yes, you may do that, and it is proven to be true, and it is very effective as well. This is one of the means of shifa from the evil eye, from the magical spells and the hasad. Barakallahu feek. Jazakumullahu khairan. Brother Abu Abdullah from Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. Please, my question is about a woman doing iqama in Fard Salat. Please, I want an explicit answer, please.
Okay, there is no adhan nor iqama for women, whether they pray individually or in congregation. Okay? Sheikh Yusuf, last night, even though I was tied up with many things, somebody called me and said we have a disaster. A grown-up young man, mashallah, who is in the 4th year in engineering school. So it's just a couple more tests and he will be an official engineer. He decided he won't go to school anymore and he's not going to the final exam. Why? He said because studying these secular sciences is haram.
Who told you this?
I'm talking about this in
idea?
relation, it just crossed my mind in relation to what we're talking about, the Khawarij and their ideology and so on. So I said, okay, this is a situation which we cannot wait, bring him over. So we spent good 1 hour, and this guy was so stubborn.
Last night you did this?
Last night.
In between hospital runs?
Yes, and he was so stubborn that he said, I heard from the scholar, I said, you name any scholar. So whenever he named a person, I said, fine, let me put him on the phone. He said, no, don't. This is what I understood, and I'm not planning to change. You see the difference between somebody like these kind of Khawarij, whom Abdullah ibn Abbas argued with them, and he basically established the hujjah and the proof. They were fair enough to say, you're right, and we're coming with you. But the other guys were stubborn. What happened with An-Namrud, when Ibrahim, peace be upon him, the Pharaoh, when he argued with him, and he said, my Lord brings the sun, gives life and death, and he said, I give life and death, etc. So Ibrahim a.s. said, my Lord brings the sun from the east. Can you bring it once from the west? You see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said? فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ. The weaker one, the disbeliever, which was An-Namrud, was utterly defeated. But did he give in? Did he say you're right? Did he believe? No. And that's why Allah humiliated him and He killed him with one of the worst means, by causing a fly to enter from his nose and settle in his brain, and they would beat him with their shoes so that he would feel better or would calm down.
You said nose, I thought it was the ear.
It doesn't matter, but the story
Bad
that
enough.
we were, yeah. What really matters is how much he was humiliated after he was a king. He claimed that he's God, but he could not save himself from a fly.
This is in ayah 258 in Surah Baqarah.
Correct.
And you're right. That story, I've told it many times. Look how he put himself up so high to say, I give life and death, and Allah killed him with a tiny gnat inside of the eustachian tube.
Yeah. What happened is, one of the arguments this young man who's ruining his life was arguing, he said that the professors do not teach deen. Rather, they sometimes say awful things about the Prophet, about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I said, such what? Give me an example. He said, they're far away from the deen and so on. I said, can you imagine if one day you get married and you want to take your wife for delivery and she's pregnant? You can't find a single Muslim gynecologist or obstetric doctor. Neither a male nor a female. Why? Because you guys believe that it is haram for us to learn medicine. It is haram to learn engineering and mathematics and science. And he said we should focus on studying the deen. It is the solution and the salvation for us to study in the deen. So I give him many examples that I studied pharmacology and I studied deen. There's no conflict. There's no contradiction whatsoever. Many of my students in the States are now MDs and doctors in Baylor College in here and there, and lawyers and dentists. And they have memorized the Quran. And they're giving better da'wah than 1,000 person like him. I told him, I swear to Allah, if you're speaking to a non-Muslim and trying to bring him to Islam, you would rather repel him and send him further away from the deen. Because there's no logic behind your behind your decision. So anyway, after we wasted a lot of time, he said, I have made up my mind and I'm not changing my decision under any circumstances. I said, what about your parents? Are they happy with that? He said, despite the fact that my parents are happy or not happy, this is the decision. He said, subhanAllah, didn't Allah say that obeying your parents and pleasing them is a fard, second to belief in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said, but the obedience of Allah should come first. I said, absolutely true. But when they order you, when they wasted a lot of time and money, because he comes from a poor family, so his family must spend arm and leg in order to send him to school for 4 or 5 years, and by the end he's blowing it, he's ruining everything. Why? Somebody had poisoned his mind and he blocked his mind. So he said, do not listen to anybody else. Even the shuyukh, he claimed that he listened to them, he won't listen to them. So in fact, sometimes there is a chance where the person is still, when you notice some changes on the person, in his ideology, in his way of thinking, feeling like he likes to isolate himself or hang around with the wrong guys, then we should catch these guys in the beginning before they get sucked in and before it becomes impossible or very hard at least for us to bring them back. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mahbub from United Arab Emirates.
Wa alaikum assalam, brother. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, shukla. Thank you for asking, Mahbub.
Brother, I have 2 questions. The first question is on behalf of my wife. She was fasting, it was a nafal, it wasn't first. She was fasting because my daughter was going through a surgery same day, and she was fasting as nafal fasting. And 2 hours before Maghrib, like around 4 o'clock UAE time, she got the first period of that month. So does she has to make up that fasting because she couldn't complete?
Mahbub, is your wife sitting next to you?
Yes.
Okay, you may ask her this question. Was this fasting nazr, a vow? She said, it is due upon me to fast this so Allah will make it easy for my daughter, or she just started voluntary fasting?
Just.
I assume that she's hearing me, but that's okay.
Yeah, she was fasting to praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it will be easy for my daughter.
Okay, so since it was not preceded with an intention of nazr, the nafl prayer, if you started, the nafl fasting, if you started and you didn't get to finish it, you don't have to make it up. But it will be better, because you started something for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will be better to make it up, but it is not mandatory to make it up if you fail to do it. Barakallah feek, Mahbub. Thank you so much. Brother Ismail from the KSA. Ismail.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakumullah khairan. My question is on behalf of my wife. She wants to know, she knows that the additional extension of the hair with artificial material is not acceptable, is not permissible. But is it okay if the material you're adding is different in texture or in color from the hair, so you're not trying to be deceptive? Is that permissible?
Did you get the last part of the question, Sheikh Yusuf? Okay.
I didn't understand it.
Ismail, I know that you said your wife, you were asking about wearing hair extension, and you know this is haram. What is the last part, the last segment of the question?
The last part of the question is, if the material that is being used, that is being added to the hair, is not the same in texture.
Oh, okay, I got your question. Whether it is the same or not the same, Ismail, no, it is not permissible. Whether it's artificial or natural, a different color, it is not permissible, because the Prophet ﷺ forbid so. Barakallah fikum, brothers and sisters. We've got to take a short break, and inshallah in a couple of minutes we'll come back to you. Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. Brothers and sisters, we had a very serious question from one sister, Sister Ruqayya, who called from Bahrain. She almost made me cry last time. She says, yeah, Sheikh Yusuf, that her non-Muslim mother has died, and she was wondering if she can make dua for her. And the sister herself is a new revert. Meanwhile, she has still her children, perhaps in the custody of the father. They are non-Muslims as well. So this is a situation which I believe you will handle better.
You said she made you cry with this. Actually, I have to tell you, I did cry for my own mother. When my mother passed away, she refused to accept Islam, clearly refused. When I first called her to Islam, she was agreeing with everything until she got back with my siblings, and they put the pressure on her. You're an old lady, you don't need to change your religion. Later she told me, don't ever talk to me about religion again. And before she passed away, the hospice keeper, the one who comes to the house and checks on her, you know, said, is there anything bothering you? She meant physically or whatever. My mother said, yeah, my son became a Muslim.
Oh, la hawla.
And the last time I talked to her, I said, Mom, God is one, right? She said, yes. Father, Son, Holy Ghost, all one. I'm like, oh, yeah, here we go.
Not a chance.
And so I tried to find some kind of consolation in Islam for this, because at that time I'd been Muslim about 10 years, and it was too much to really bear, and I can really feel for the one who's going through this. Sometimes the shayukh, well, they'll just, you say, can I pray for my mom? She died, she wasn't a Muslim. They come down like real heavy to add more pressure on top. The fact that you already hurt, and they say, Abraham couldn't pray for his own father, Noah couldn't pray for his own son, Prophet ﷺ couldn't pray for Abu Talib, whom he loved very much. No, you can't. Next question. You're devastating him. It's kind of like when you tell a sister, if you don't wear hijab, you can't be a Muslim. Oh, that's all I got to do, take like that? Oh, good, thank you. Goodbye. You know, and obviously that's not the way to go. What I would like to do, first of all, sister, it's up to Allah, not you and me. If there was anybody who didn't hear the message of Islam, remember, Allah is just, Allah is fair. He will be fair with that person. Do not despair of Allah, no matter what. If a person goes to hell, it is because Allah knows what was inside of them, and they earned it on their own. It's not from Allah. Second of all, if there's a weight of good in that person, they didn't know the message, didn't understand it, maybe some mental capacity that they don't have, remember, Allah is fair, Allah is just, and He will make you happy in the paradise. You have accepted Islam, that's the best and foremost thing for you to do, and I'm sure, I'm positive, that you'll find that this is all going to be just fine. So do relax, but let's focus on the living. You have children, and you want to set a good example for them and encourage them about the good things about Islam, the moral things in Islam, the righteous things about Islam, and take it easy on this subject of those who have passed. They have already died, and whether or not you make dua for somebody really is, that's your benefit anyway. So why don't you make dua for all of us who are working, that are alive, trying to get the message out. And we join you in that, and we ask Allah to make it easy for you, sister.
As you and I, we have learned and always tried our best to be specific, we want to deliver also an answer to her with regards to, can she make dua for her?
No, we said no.
Okay, exactly. So, but meanwhile, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just. And we spoke last episode about people who did not hear the message, or have heard it in a negative way, like those who are sitting all day long just watching Fox News or 700 Club.
Don't give them free advertising. They don't give us any.
That's actually a warning. So what happens, I believe these people have been misinformed about the deen. So their matter is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will design a special test for them on the day of judgment. It doesn't mean that because they have been misinformed or they were not informed at all, they will just go to heaven straight. But they will be tested on the day of judgment. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best who will be rightly guided and who will go astray. But as far as your children who are still non-Muslims, as I prayed for them last time, and also we repeat once again, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide them and bring them to the folds of Islam. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Naif from the KSA.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Sorry to keep you on hold for so long.
It was not long as I'm watching you guys.
Alhamdulillah, barakallah fi.
Loving you for the sake of Allah.
Jazakallah khairan. May Allah bless you.
Just want to say salam to Sheikh Yusuf.
Please.
And
waiting for you, all people in Mecca. And may Allah reward you guys
for all
good programs.
Jazakallah khair.
Yeah, even like you are in the front of the camera, even those guys behind the cameras, those taking the calls. And just remember, the word of Allah, may Allah accept from everybody, and may Allah give the reward for everybody. Even sometimes we don't have this in mind. Just want to encourage these guys, brothers in Islam. Even the guy who pushed the chair, just put it in your mind. Inshallah, may Allah reward you. May Allah accept from you guys. And thank you very much for this time.
Guess what, Naif? That's why they pushed the chair.
Yeah. Actually, we do have a lot of brothers here right now, and they're so happy. They're all smiling really big, because usually people forget to make dua for them. It takes about 20 to 30 people to put these things on. You don't realize
35
that.
people.
35?
Yeah.
Well, that's a little bigger than our crew back home. But anyway, yeah, when you just see two of us or one of us sitting here, you don't realize how many people it takes to do this.
Yeah.
So, and many of them are working for free or almost free in the world. So make dua, Allah reward them in the next world.
Ameen. Barakallah fi.
Ameen.
Assalamu alaikum. Safiya from United Arab Emirates. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sheikh. I have one question for Sir Sheikh Yusuf Estes.
Please.
I want him to share with us a little bit of, how he keeps himself so cheerful at this age. And because, there are so many elderly people in my house, some of them are very, very sick. And they keep on praying, with the why doesn't Allah just call us and we want to end this life and things like that. So I just wanted you to share a bit of information, if you can, how to remain positive and cheerful at this age, especially if you're ailing and you're not.
You're making him feel like he's pretty old.
Yeah. It makes me feel like super old.
Well, first
of all, you got a point. I was almost 50 years old when I came to Islam, and that's more than 21 years ago. So if you add it all up, I'm 21 years old. Because the Sahabi, they used to count their age from when they entered Islam. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So actually, if you're old, you enter Islam and you become younger. Make sense?
Absolutely.
That's better than the fountain of youth. And it gets even better. And then if you live even older and older and you die, listen to what the Prophet ﷺ said. Yeah. There was a lady, an old lady, and she said something to him about the Jannah, and he said, oh, you didn't know there won't be any old ladies in the Jannah. And he went on, and when he came back, she's crying. He said, what's the matter? She said, you said, oh, there'll be no old ladies in the Jannah. He said, yeah, you're going to be young. So?
Yeah, age 33, mashallah.
So? Anybody's old, they need to be a Muslim, they'll be young again, here and in hereafter.
Barakallah fi. Assalamu alaikum. We have Bello from Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum, Bello.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sheikh. How are you today?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. Thank you for asking.
I just have one question for Sheikh Estes, inshallah.
Please.
Yes, one question for Yusuf Estes, inshallah.
Yalla, go ahead.
Please. I'm a lover of his programs, like the lifting the fork, closing the gap, and misconception. But I don't know what happened to misconception and lifting the gap. We're not in them again. It's only misconception for now. So I'm just throwing the question to check. I don't know maybe whether the program is coming back or it has gone for good.
What is the question then?
Well, my question is, what happened to his programs? I'm a lover of his programs. Closing the gap, misconception, and lifting the fork.
Oh, he knows the programs better than I do. I think the only one you left out was the Way of the Muslim or something, but that wasn't really the controversial. The controversial questions that come up every day, Muslims, all of us were dealing with them. So Huda has put together a program, and I'm not supposed to tell anybody about it because it's top secret, so I'm not going to tell you. It's called Face Islam, and it's coming out. Oh, did I slip? Yeah, it's a big one coming out. Hundreds, if not tens, of great programs dealing with this called Face Islam. They'll put up a website for this thing. It's going to be amazing, inshallah. But remember, don't tell anybody. Like Facebook, for instance, and Twitter.
Sister Naima from Nigeria had a question. She said that she divorced her husband because he was not praying at all, and he refuses to pray. And she's now in charge of raising her children from her own expenses. Does she still have to pay zakah? Well, if you have some money which is zakatable, which reached the nisab, the minimum threshold, or exceeds it, and you maintain it for a whole lunar year, the Islamic year, Islamic calendar, then you should pay zakah, even if this wealth belongs to orphans, because as long as the money is sitting there, there is zakah on it. So yes, and meanwhile, if you're not capable to support them financially, guess what? You'll be eligible to be supported to raise your children from the zakah of those who can afford it. Barakallah fiki.
But you can't give zakat to yourself.
Of course not.
Well, no, in Islam, you can a lady can give zakat to her poor husband.
Yeah, but not to herself.
But not to herself.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. Brother Kamal from the KSA.
Yes. Sheikh, Dr. Salah.
Yeah. Speaking.
I just want to, I am basically from India. At present, I am working in Saudi Arabia. What I want to know, what should I do with the amount of money that I have in the bank, with interest money?
With interest? Yes. Is this in Saudi or in India?
No, in India.
In India.
Can I give it to any poor relative who has no
There are no Islamic banks there. Are there any?
No.
No, okay. Okay. This money, simply do not leave it to the bank. You can collect it, give it to an orphanage, give it to a school, to a hospital, give it to poor people, but it should not be invested in building or maintaining the masajid. This is a very important question. How can we recognize that the jinn is possessing a person, and how can we cure the person? As far as the cure, we'll speak a little bit about exorcism in Islam versus exorcism in Christianity and other religions. That would be best if you address this. But now there are certain features or symptoms that if the person is physiologically fit, like you go to the doctor, you say you don't have a problem with your pulmonary system, you don't have a problem with your digestive system, but you always have sickness, stomachic, or you always cough. So all the exams and physical tests, everything is negative. But in this case, we look into other symptoms, which could be simply due to being possessed by the jinn. Somebody who has severe headache or migraine constantly without a problem. If the person cannot tolerate hearing the adhan or listening to the Quran, and he was not like that before, then this is as a result of being possessed by the shaitan or due to a magical spell or an evil eye, and so on. We'll speak about the remedy, inshallah azza jal. Sometimes a person behaves weirdly, particularly with his spouse, because most of the magical spells or the possessions due to the marital relations. Somebody wants to distance somebody from her spouse or his spouse, and so on. So that's why the person will behave outside differently than when he comes home. He will just pick up a fight for no reason. When he comes home,
there is mentioned in Surah Baqarah.
Naam. Sometimes the Satan or the jinn who's possessing the person may speak on his tongue.
Yes,
so
I've heard it, by the way.
You'll hear a female. That happens whenever a professional qari or a person who gives ruqya starts reciting the ayat which pertains sihr and magic in Surah Al-Baqarah and so on.
I read Ayatul Kursi on one and heard it just...
and a female would sound as a male.
Yeah, it was. Usually we found that if it's a woman, it's a male's voice, and if it's a male, it's a woman's voice.
Yeah, usually, but not all the time, of course.
No, it's not always.
Sometimes the person fails to have an intimate relation with his or her spouse, and constant miscarriage could also be due
miscarriage.
to... Miscarriage. Jazakallah khayran, barakallah feek. Could be also due to that. So that's why these are some of the symptoms. I don't want to go further because some people will say, yeah, I always see bad dreams. Well, it happens because you eat a heavy meal before you go to sleep. So this is not a nightmare, nor is it something due to being possessed by the jinn, but due to something else, like eating heavily before going to sleep, or eating late, and so on, or thinking, watching a horror movie. So there are many symptoms, but these are some of the very prominent symptoms. If the person is physiologically and physically fit, but has these symptoms, then in this case, we ask a sheikh or a qari to recite certain ayat, and the person himself can do that, reciting Surah Al-Baqarah entirely in the same sitting. Reciting Surah Al-Baqarah keeps the shaitan and the household safe, keeps the house and the household safe from the shaitan for 3 consecutive days, whether you recite it in the morning or in the evening, reciting Ayatul Kursi as you described, and reciting Al-Mu'awwidhat, ayat pertaining السحر in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَمَا يُعَلِّمَانِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ حَتَّى يَقُولَا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةٌ, etc.
Don't forget Surah Fatiha.
Surah Al-Fatiha, Umar ibn Khattab used to use it as a ruqya by itself. It's also prescribed to bring 7 leaves of the lot tree or the sidr, grind them and dissolve them in water.
What tree?
The lot tree or a sidr. Okay? And you can find them at certain places who sell herbs. So we recite on them Ayatul Kursi, Al-Mu'awwidhat, and Surah Al-Fatiha, and you can shower with them, or you can make wudu with them.
Can you put them in the bathtub?
Yes, and you can sit in that too as well. That will help you a lot, inshallah.
You mentioned something earlier about
exorcism.
Yeah, but they ask about putting something in the bowl. The sister asked about...
No, the sister was saying that, can I recite Quran or center water and drink it? She said Zamzam water. I said yes, because it can be water.
I thought she said, can we write something down and put it in there?
That can be done if it is written by saffron, not by ink, of course, because it is not. It's poisonous, and you soak the water itself in.
But you can actually write out something in Arabic and put it in there?
Quran. Not anything.
I wanted you to say that.
Unfortunately, we don't have time to speak about exorcism, but hopefully, inshallah, I'll begin with that next episode. And until then, brothers and sisters, I leave you in the care of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I should not forget to thank Sheikh Yusuf. Thank you so much for joining us. And brothers and sisters, barakallahu feekum. May Allah bless you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.